Hello, and welcome back to another amazing training video. I'm Josh Altman, standing here with my partner in profits, the clever investor himself, Mr. Cody Sperber. And we're ready to dive into module number 3, the due diligence and circumstance analysis stage. In this video, we're going to cover how Cody and I recommend you do your research and analyze potential leads to find out which ones are deals and which ones are duds.
Yeah, and what I love most about this part of the process is that this is where you finally start feeling like a real estate investor. At this point, we've set up our real estate investing businesses the right way. We began generating both on-market and off-market leads, and now it's time to begin focusing on converting those leads into deals.
And while we're going to teach you all the technical steps into evaluating a deal, remember that putting a valuation on a piece of real estate, it's as much of an art form as it is a science. You see, if I had 10 people in a room, let's say 2 appraisers, 2 real estate agents, 2 cash buyers, 2 motivated sellers, and 2 wholesalers, and I asked them all to analyze a single property, realistically, I'd probably get 10 different evaluations. Yes, we can comp a property based off of recent closed sales and get a pretty good idea of what its current market value is, but the appraiser's motivation is to protect the lender from overlending. The real estate agent's motivation is to sell you the idea that if you list with them, that they can get their clients highest price possible. And the cash buyer's motivation is to buy the property for the cheapest amount that they can. The motivated sellers they're so emotional that they typically have no idea what's going on. And the wholesaler's motivation is to make the property look as enticing as possible so the rehabber and the landlord buy into the deal's future potential. So have fun doing your research on deals and realize that over time, as you analyze lots of properties in the same area, that you'll begin to get that gut feeling of what a property's worth and whether or not you can make some money from it.
That's absolutely right, Josh. And the reason that Josh just shared that with you is to relieve you of some of the pressure of trying to perfectly understand all the aspects of a potential deal before feeling comfortable enough to move forward, and to help you understand that everybody's perception of value is going to be different depending on what they plan on doing with the property. All right, so we're ready if you're ready, so we might as well just dive right in. So here we are at stage number 3, the due diligence in circumstance analysis stage.
And like my mentor used to say, it's time to roll up our sleeves and begin working our leads. And we want to start off by going over some of the basics of doing research and then show you the exact 3 steps we take so you can mirror our process. So let's first define what due diligence and circumstance analysis is. Due diligence is defined as the process a party of a transaction goes through when investigating the facts and circumstances of a transaction prior to signing a contract. In other words, it's the gathering and processing of all the details that will affect the amount you offer on a particular deal. Circumstance analysis is the concept of analyzing the seller's current situation to see if we can come up with a fair solution to their housing problems. Remember, all the reasons why a seller might become motivated for a quick sell and quick cash. Things like a divorce, death in the family, job loss, facing foreclosure, medical or legal bills, inheriting an unwanted property, being a tired landlord, or the million other reasons a person might find themselves in financial pain. And as we talk with the sellers or their real estate agent and gather information, we start to get an understanding of the details of the property, why the seller wants to sell, what they want as a sales price, what repairs we believe the property will need to sell for full market value. This entire period of research and analysis is called the due diligence period.
That's right. And as wholesalers, we need to analyze a potential wholesale deal as if we're looking through the eyes of our back-end cash buyers. And since our end buyers are typically rehabbers or landlords, we look for motivation, equity, necessary repairs, and or potential cash flow. Now, we call these 5 items key identifiers, so you're going to want to write them down. Motivation, so the seller has a reason to sell at a discount. Equity, so if the seller chooses to sell at a discount, they can. Necessary repairs, or the ability to add value so that there's room to increase the property's final sales price. And cash flow if the property is located in an area where there's strong rents and affordable housing.
So from a 500-foot level, these are the initial key identifiers of whether or not we're dealing with a potential deal. If we uncover these key identifiers throughout our due diligence period, we will feel comfortable moving the ball down the field to the next stage.
So to give you some perspective of where we're at in the deal-making process, let's take a look at our flow chart here. What you're looking at is essentially the entire leads to cash process. As our leads come pouring into our real estate business, we're jumping on the phone with either a motivated seller directly or with the real estate agent bringing us a deal. At this point, we begin to gather information by reading our scripts and filling out our lead intake forms. These scripts are going to make your job talking with sellers so easy. All you have to do is read the script and fill out the form. The key is being able to anticipate where to take the conversation so that by the time you're done with the first phone call, the seller has given you all the information you'll need to begin analyzing the deal. We have separate training videos that show you how easy these first few phone calls can be. So if you've never done this before, I promise you, you'll be sounding like a pro in no time as long as you don't wing it and simply follow our scripts. All right, with that being said, let's take a look at the 6 main goals of the first phone call that we have with the motivated seller.
They are, and you will definitely want to write these down. Number 1, build rapport. Number 2, uncover the seller's why, otherwise known as hot buttons. Number 3, gather property data such as beds, baths, square footage, year built, etc. Number 4, establish what price the seller wants for the property. Number 5, set an appointment to view the property. And number 6, set up your higher authority, which will help you later with negotiations.
Now, like Josh just said a moment ago, we have some amazing training videos that's going to show you how to work with sellers over the phone, so you're definitely going to want to check those out and get trained up. The important thing is that you do not negotiate price on this first phone call. Now, I'm going to say that again because it's really, really important. You should never negotiate price on the first phone call with the motivated seller. You're going to have plenty of time on your follow-up calls to negotiate price. I'm telling you that this is going to be your kiss of death if you try to negotiate price down to significant discount prior to establishing enough of a relationship with the seller. The only caveat is if the seller's literally begging you to come buy their property at a screaming price, in which case you just get your butt off the phone and go over to the house and write the offer up ASAP and get it done. Otherwise, we simply read the script and achieve our 6 main goals of that first phone call.
Great advice. And the best part is, as we read the script and ask the seller questions, what we're essentially doing is our circumstance analysis. We're identifying what property issues or personal issues is the seller experiencing that would motivate them to sell at a significant discount from retail. Is it a property issue like repairs or outstanding liens, or is the property abandoned? Or is it a personal issue like they lost their job, going through a divorce, or simply just sick of dealing with tenants and toilets?
And if you happen to be working with a real estate agent, the process, it's going to be similar, but our main goals of the call will change slightly. Okay? They are, number 1, build rapport so that they like you. Number 2, establish credibility so that they know you're not going to be wasting their time. Number 3, create benefits, and what we mean by this is selling the future value that you're going to bring to the relationship if they take a chance and work with you right now. Number 4 is gathering property data. And number 5 is identifying options. And what we really mean by this is because you're talking with a professional, unlike the motivated seller who might not really know a lot about real estate, because you're talking with a professional, it's perfectly okay to start talking price, asking whether or not the seller would be willing to carry back part of the sale or any other creative option that you may come up with.
And just to add what Cody said about selling future benefits, I personally say things like, if you work with me, you can double dip commissions, get paid multiple times per year because we're buying properties all the time. That we can not only, we can bring them other potential listing leads from motivated sellers that, let's say, don't accept our discounted all-cash offer. Look, the key is scripting out who you are and what value you bring to the table so that you're not, winging it and it's, right away you just sound like a pro even if it's just your first week in the business.
Just remember that not everything has to be done on that first phone call with a seller or an agent. You should pretty much spend about 15 to 20 minutes max on that first call trying to achieve all the objectives, and then you're typically going to have 1 to 5 more follow-up calls where you can do things like ask questions that you may have forgotten, build more rapport and create more credibility, position your higher authority as the real decision maker, begin to challenge their perception of value, and to negotiate price. So now that we've gathered some basic information, it's time to start doing our real due diligence.
So to recap, due diligence is simply the process of gathering and analyzing all the details that will affect the amount you offer on a particular deal. So we're talking about online research, like looking up the property on Google Maps and doing a street view if it's available, looking up tax records and old MLS listings, and running comps and doing some basic online market research. Then we can go out into the field and verify what we found online by driving the comps, commercial anchors, neighborhood and subject property.
So here are the 4 key areas to focus on when doing your research. First, we're going to look at the homeowner and we're going to do our circumstance analysis. We're going to gather the contact information, the reasons for selling, what price they want, what they think the property is worth, what they're going to do with the money once they get it, how fast they need the money, and why they're not selling through a traditional channel like a real estate agent, just to name a few of the items. Then we're going to move on to looking at the property itself. We look at the property characteristics such as beds, baths, size, etc. We also look at the property condition and try to estimate what repairs would be necessary to sell at full market value. And lastly, we do a property evaluation by looking at the recent active, pending, and sold comps so we can try and come up with our best guess at what current market value is as well as after repaired value once the property is fully fixed up. Third, we expand out to the entire neighborhood. This typically is a subdivision, but we can be just going out a specific distance away from the subject property, like, say, every house within half a mile or something like that. Now, we're looking at the age of all the houses in the area, the number of competing homes for sale, average days on market that it's taking for houses to sell, what the average price per square foot for houses are that are selling in the area, which market segment that we're located in. We're also looking at distressed property data in the neighborhood. This includes foreclosures and short sales and bank-owned properties that are currently listed for sale. The reason that we look at this stuff is to get an idea of the amount of discounted inventory that's going to be coming on the market that could lower the price, and we use this foresight to make smarter offers. Now lastly, we take a quick glance at the local market trends in the city and state that we're doing business in. We research what the current appreciation rates are, statewide foreclosure rates, total number of active listings currently listed on the MLS, and if this number is trending up or down over time, and the average days on market for the entire zip code or the city. By the time you're done focusing on these 4 key areas, you're going to have a complete understanding of whether or not you're dealing with a deal or a dud, and you're going to eliminate any wasted time on properties that don't work for wholesalers or rehabbers.
All right, so now that you have a really good 500-foot altitude education, it's time to dive a little deeper into the concept of comping properties. And just to catch any new investors up with my lingo, a comp is simply a short and fast way to say comparable. And when it comes to real estate, we're talking about comparing recently listed, pending, or sold properties to our subject property that we're trying to evaluate. In other words, we use available public data and a little bit of our intuition to determine our subject property's current market value. And to be honest, evaluating a property, it's as much of an art as it is a science. And I'm about to show you all the technical steps that I follow when evaluating a potential deal. But a lot of the magic happens because of my personal experiences over the years. You too will develop this internal intuition as you practice comping properties in your target market. So let's dive in and have a candid conversation about comps. So first, let's talk about Zillow.com. Zillow was started in 2005 by a couple of old Microsoft executives. And with its inception came the popularity of the AVM model of comping. AVM stands for Automatic Valuation Model. And basically what this means is that Zillow takes available public data and runs it through a proprietary algorithm and spits out what they call a Zestimate. Basically, no human touches the Zestimate results. It's all computerized. This Zestimate, it's great for quickly evaluating a property, but it doesn't take into consideration the upgrades, the layout, landscaping, traffic noise, inaccuracies of the data, views, or needed repairs. Basically, the Zestimate, it's accurate all the way until, well, it's not. And then it's terribly inaccurate. So we use Zillow as a quick gauge, especially when we're wholesaling. But if you really want to dial into the accuracy of the subject property's value, well, you'll want to continue comping way beyond Zillow. And this may mean looking at tax-assessed values, running a quick comp on the tax portion of the MLS, having your investor-friendly real estate agent do a full-blown CMA, or even hiring an appraiser to value the property. Now, before we go any further, let's take a small step backwards and discuss everything that we believe goes into a good comparable. Here are some of the general rules of thumbs that I use, and you'll want to write this down. When you're comping a property, you want to make sure the comparable property is within, well, about 500 square feet of the size of the property you're looking at. You want to make sure that the comparable property was built within 5 years of when the property you're looking at was built. You want to look at, the bedroom and the bathroom count and make sure it's pretty close. You want to look at when it was sold, preferably within 90 days. You want to look at the condition of the house. If it's a fixer, you want to try to look at another fixer. If it's a turnkey house, you want to look at another turnkey. All right, let's take a look at distance. And when it comes to distance, you of course want to be as close as possible to the subject property. In a densely populated area, try to start in the same subdivision. That's going to be the best. Then slowly move out, going no further than 1 mile. Now, in rural areas, you got to start looking at all the houses within, well, I would say a half a mile, and then I'd move out another half a mile, but I won't go any further than 5 miles. If you have a hard time finding any recently sold comps within our recommended distances, well, what you can do is juggle between distance and time. For example, I may start with a distance, but if I get too far out, when we're talking about 5 miles maybe, from the subject property, I'll tighten back my search, and instead I'll go further back in time. So instead of 90 days, maybe I'll look from 6 months back. The goal really is to find at least 2 or 3 good comps, get their sales price per square foot, and use the median of that number and multiply it against the square footage of, well, the subject property. This will give you the approximate value of the subject property. Okay, so we have our subject property here. We got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a 2-car garage and a pool. The square footage of the house is 1,790 square feet. And you see that box with a line through it? That's the universal symbol of square footage. The house was built in 1984. There's an 11,000 square foot lot. It's a 1-story house, and it needs some work. Now we have all the information of this house. Well, what's it worth? This is how we find out what it's worth. What I did was I pulled 5 potential comps to try to figure out the value of this property. So let's walk through them, and I'll show you my mindset on how I figure out the value. Number 1, let's take this for example. You got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage house with no pool. Well, okay, we got the same bedroom count, bathroom count, and garage, but this one does have a pool. It's on a 12,000 square foot lot. This is on an 11,000 square foot lot. The square footage is 2,080. Ours is 1,790. That one's 2-story. Ours is only 1-story. And that's in good condition. Our needs work. Okay, and that one sold for $190,000. Is that a good comp? Here's my problem with this one. Number 1, it's 2 stories. Our house is 1 story. That's kind of a big deal. So that's working against it being a comp. Also, ours has a pool. That one doesn't have a pool. Our needs work. That one's in good condition. This was built in 1994. Ours was built in 1984. That's a big gap. I'm going to cross that off the list. There's too many differences there. So for me, not a comp. Let's look at the next one, for example. We got a 3-bedroom house, 1.5 bathroom, 2-car garage with a pool. So instead of a 3.22, it's a 1.52. Pretty similar. I mean, we're only talking about a half bath. It's on an 11,000 square foot lot. So is ours, 1150 to be exact. So very, very comparable as far as the lot goes. It's 1 story. So is ours. Check. Needs updating, needs work. Check. Built in 1982, built in 1984. Sounds like a home run to me. This sounds like it may almost be the same house, right? So in my opinion, this is a very good comp. Sold for $162,500. So that's very similar. We got rid of the first one. We're going to keep this one. So as far as I know right now, this is the best comp that I'm able to find. Let's move on to the next one. Another 3.22 with a pool. Check. This one's 1,759 square feet. Ours is 1,790 square feet. Check. 1 story, 1 story. Built in 88. Ours is built in 84. 9,000 lot. Ours is 11,000 lot. This is sounding like a pretty good comp to me. Does it sound like that to you? The only difference here is that it's a short sale. So you just got to kind of take into account that it probably was a motivated sale, right? So maybe it's a little lower than what it should be worth. Anyways, I like this. I think it's another good comp. It's not as good as this one, but I think it's a good one. Let's look at the next one. 3.22, no pool. Well, same 3.22, but we do have a pool. That one's 11,000, so same lot size, same 1 story. Built in 1984. Wow, this actually looks like it's pretty much the same house again, but one has a pool and one doesn't. One's remodeled and one needs work. I like this as a comp, and I'll tell you why. I like it because it's basically this house remodeled. So if I'm looking at this as a deal and I want to know what this house is worth after I put money into it and remodel it, it's right there. It just sold for $181,000. That pretty much tells me, okay, that's the end point, my exit strategy when I sell this house. If I buy it and do work to it, it's going to be worth $181,000. Easy enough. Let's look at the last one here. We got a 4.32. Okay, so it's got another bedroom compared to ours. It's got another bathroom compared to ours. It's 2,680 square feet, so it's a lot bigger than ours because ours is only 1,790. It was built in 99, so big gap when ours was built. 1 story, yep, needs work. That one's in good condition. There's too many differences here, okay? That one has another bedroom, it has another bathroom, it's much bigger, it was built at a different time. Pretty much the only thing that's similar is that they're both 1-story houses. And that one sold for $210,000. To me, that is definitely not a comp. So I pulled these 5 comps or potential comps, and now I have eliminated number 1 and I eliminated number 5. So now we have comps 2, 3, and 4. And number 2 sold for $162,500. It's 1,850 square feet. Okay, I take the 162.5, I divide it by 1,850, which is the square footage of the house, and that gives me $88 per square foot. Okay, and well, that's the average amount of what somebody's willing to pay in this area. It's the price per square foot that somebody wants to pay for the house. Now, same thing here. You got a $144,000 sale, 1,759 square feet. So I do 144,000 divided by 1,759, and that gives me $82 a foot. $82 is the price per square foot that this sold for. And let's look at number 4. You got $101 a square foot, which is the highest out of the 3. Now, if you take those 3 numbers, $88 a foot, $82 a foot, and $101 a foot, and you put them together, you add them up, and you divide by 3, you get a number of 90. And $90 per square foot is the average of what somebody should be paying or is willing to pay in this area for a property. $90 a foot. So you take that $90 and you multiply it by 1,790, and it gives you a number of $161,100. Okay, you got that? So that's the value of our house right there. So you take the 1,790, you multiply it by $90, which is price per square foot that houses are going for in the area on average, and you get, ready? $161,100. And that's pretty much what the house is worth, give or take a little bit. And the goal, of course, is to buy it as much under that number as possible. But going off these 3 comps, it's pretty much what it's worth. All right, so we're on the final stretch of this training video, and what I want to do is tie all the new knowledge you have together and show you the 3-step sequence that both Cody and I go through whenever we're analyzing a property. Pay attention how we process the lead and the order in which we do our research. Then next time you're going to analyze a deal, just mirror what we do, and in no time, you'll be a pro while doing your research.
All right, so step 1 is looking at where the property is located. What area of town is it in? Is it a war zone, a working class area, middle income, or high income area of town? A simple way to figure this out from home without going out and driving the neighborhood is to look at the area's median home sale price, and any properties near that price range are in the middle income area of town. So if the area's median home sale price is, let's say, $100,000, then any homes within plus or minus 20% of that number would be considered middle income properties. More than 20%, that's when you move into the upper income area of town, and below 20% is when you move into the lower income working class areas of town. And if you're scared to get out of your car at night, well, then congratulations, you are now looking at a property in a war zone. Any homes valued 20% above median home sale price would be considered the upper income area of town, and 20% below the median home sale price would be located in the working class area of town.
Yeah, this is an awesome and simple way to segment your local market, Josh, and I love it because it's important as wholesalers that we focus in on areas of town where the most cash buyer activity is actually found. And as rehabbers, it gives us a gauge on how many hassles that we may encounter with our property sitting vacant as we're going through the rehab process.
Absolutely correct. And once we've identified what market segment the property is in, well, the next thing we do is we jump onto Google Maps and look at the satellite, street, and map view. What we're looking for is anything that may affect value that's near the subject property. For instance, do we see parks and greenbelts, or a milk processing plant that's directly across the street? Is the property inside a neighborhood in a cul-de-sac, or is it on the corner of a major roadway or highway?
Yeah, one time, Josh, I purchased this house at foreclosure auction, and this big, huge, like major canal ran right behind the property. And running right along the canal were some of those humongous power lines. And I'm telling you, it was so difficult to get another buyer to pay anywhere close to normal retail value for homes in this neighborhood because of that canal and because of those power lines. We practically had to give the house away.
Yeah, Google Maps is great because you can quickly and easily get a pretty good idea of what the subject property and the neighborhood looks like.
Yep, and the next thing that we want to do is look to see if there's any cash buyer activity going on in the area. And this is especially important when wholesaling because obviously you want to do deals in areas where your buyers are looking for deals. And the good news is seeing if there's any cash buyer activity is free and it's actually quite simple. All you need to do is go and ask your investor-friendly real estate agent to research all of the recently closed transactions on the MLS near the subject property where the financing type of that transaction was cash. Then all you have them do is email you the list that they generated so you can review all the cash transactions. Now, we're just looking to see if there's any recently closed cash buyer activity near the subject property, and if there is, then chances are that you're going to have a ready and willing pool of cash buyers looking for deals in that area. Now, if the subject property passes the first step and it still looks like a deal, then what we're going to do is move on into analyzing the property itself. So in step number 2, property analysis, we're going to look at Zillow.com, county tax records, the MLS, and NARRPR.com. Let's go through each of these individually. So with Zillow, what we want to do is run a quick Zestimate on the property. Now, we already know what the seller thinks their property is worth and what they want us to pay for it. Now we can compare those amounts to the Zestimate from Zillow and see if there is an obvious spread.
That's right. And while we're there, we can see some basic public data, such as limited tax information, and run a rent Zestimate just to see what Zillow thinks the property would rent for. Then after Zillow, we move on to Tax Records website. You can easily find your local county tax assessor's website by visiting publicrecords.netraronline.com or going through the MLS system. What we're looking for is to verify the owner of record to see if we're speaking with the real decision maker or makers. And the assessor's parcel number, otherwise known as the APN or tax ID number. Plus, while we're there, we can verify all the property characteristics and data and see what the price the tax assessor values the property for. Next, we move on to the MLS. It's typically our biggest treasure trove for data, so if you don't have access to the MLS, you want to make it a major priority to network with an investor-friendly real estate agent and get them onto your power team. All right, with that said, we typically start by looking to see if the subject property has ever been listed before in the past. If it has, we print out the most recent version of the old listings for our files. The reason we do this is because you can get a ton of valuable information off of the old listing, such as important property characteristics and even old listing photos of the inside of the property.
That's right. And next, what we want to do is go into the tax records portion of the MLS and run a quick tax comp. Now, this is going to be similar to Zillow's Zestimate because it's an automatic valuation model comp, only it's way more accurate. Then we would do a complete CMA, or comparative market analysis, which typically gives us an extremely good idea what the property is worth both in its current market value as well as its after repaired value.
And every MLS system in the country is a little bit different. And the CMAs that an investor-friendly real estate agent could send you may look a little different than ours. But we have a downloadable example right below this video for you to check out so you can see what one looks like. You can thank me later. And since we're in the giving spirit, we're going to hook you up with one of our best-kept secrets that I just know you are going to love. It's called NARRPR.com. And this is one of those tools that not too many people know about, but it's so extremely useful that I just have to share it with you. So NARRPR.com, otherwise known as Realtors Property Resource, it's a free nationwide service to any licensed realtor where they can get access to amazing in-depth evaluation reports on any parcel in the entire United States. It's owned by the National Association of Realtors, so you know they're going to have access to amazing data points, and this has been one of our best-kept secrets when analyzing deals. Their sales comparison analysis feature that they have allows you to create a custom valuation workbook that includes tax records data, comp analysis, inventory analysis, distressed property analysis. It even allows you to adjust the weight of each comparable property so you can dial in the difference between the comp and the subject property.
Since RPR is only available to realtors, here's the key to getting access to an NAR RPR report. First, get an investor-friendly real estate agent on your power team. Second, explain all the benefits that they're going to experience working with you and how by using RPR, they can get you the data that you need in a fraction of the time that it would take them to find that exact same data off the MLS. Third, get them to sign up for a free NAR RPR account if they don't already have one. And fourth, send them something nice like a Starbucks gift card after they send you your first few requested reports just to let them know that you appreciate them hooking you up.
Yeah, take care of your agent, and they will take care of you. And look, these reports should give you plenty of data firepower when going through the motions of doing your research. And to show you an example of what a RPR report looks like, we're giving you a downloadable example for you to check out.
So at this point, we've gathered all the necessary information from the seller or real estate agent over the phone, and we completed all our online research. Between Zillow and tax records and quick comps and MLS comps and RPR reports, a picture of value has been developed. Now it's time to go out into the field, put our boots on the ground, and verify everything that we found online to ensure its accuracy.
Now, I can't tell you how many times I did some online research and I pulled comps only to go out to view the comps and I realized that they were nothing like my subject property and they weren't even real comps to begin with. So what I typically do after doing my online research is I print everything out and I put it in my property file. Then I go and I drive the subject property and I take a picture of the front of the property with my cell phone. Then what I do is I go drive around to all the comps that I pulled to see if they truly are similar to my subject property, and I look at that picture that I took on my phone for reference. Lastly, I drive around the entire neighborhood and I look for vacant or abandoned properties, FSBOs or for sale by owner properties, foreclosures, or anything else that may affect my subject property's value.
Yeah, and by the time you're done verifying everything, you're ready to negotiate from a position of knowledge and understanding, which we'll cover in our next module. For now, we want to leave you with one last tip for staying organized. Below this video, we're giving you access to 3 simple documents. They're a property profile checklist, a pre-meeting checklist, and an at-a-glance worksheet to help you create the perfect property file and ensure you don't forget any of the items we discussed in this video. We have supportive training videos inside the module that further explains how these checklists work. And yes, they're fancy CRMs that do this digitally, and if you can afford one, well, that's great. But if you want to keep your expenses down, it's perfectly fine to go the old school route and have a property file for each deal you're working. The checklists and worksheets are pretty self-explanatory. All you need is to do is print them out, check off each due diligence and circumstance analysis item as you collect it.
The 3 main goals of the due diligence and circumstance analysis stage are to, number 1, get an idea of the subject property's current market value based off the information we collected up to this point. Number 2, you want to get an idea of what we believe the subject property could sell for if it was fully fixed up, otherwise known as after repaired value, ARV. And number 3, start to formulate our offer strategy, in which we cover in detail in module number 4.
That's right, Josh. And module number 4 is probably the most important module in this training because it's going to show you how to structure both wholesale and rehab offers and maximize profit potential by showing you hidden profit centers in each type of deal. You're going to learn about the wholesaler's maximum allowable offer formula, as well as get access to an amazing rehabbing tool called the Fast Track Deal Analyzer.
Yep, and by the time you're done with module number 4, you will have a complete understanding of the entire wholesale and rehab process and know the exact steps that you'll want to take in order to get you into the field and start making offers. Until then, I want you to watch the rest of the supplemental training videos found here in module number 3 and do whatever it takes to get comfortable doing your research and analysis. Well, that's all we have for you in this training video. We hope you had fun and learned a ton. I'm Josh Altman.
And I'm Cody Sperber.
And we're doing whatever it takes to turn your dreams into reality. Until the next training, bye for now.